Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, 2006, directed by Gore Verbinski and written by Ted Elliott and Terry Ruscio, continues the swashbuckling saga of Captain Jack Sparrow, Elizabeth Swann, and Will Turner. The film follows a mostly linear narrative structure, progressing chronologically from beginning to end, but it weaves in multiple intertwining storylines, creating complexity without deviating from a conventional timeline. The narrative is structured in 3 acts, with a series of rising conflicts, character dilemmas, and moral ambiguities, all under the umbrella of high adventure and supernatural elements. Underscore 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 underscore. Opening act. Disruption of peace and introduction of the main conflict. The story opens in Port Royal under stormy skies. What was supposed to be a joyous wedding between Elizabeth Swann and Will Turner is interrupted by the arrival of Lord Cutler Beckett of the East India Trading Company. He arrests both Will and Elizabeth for aiding the escape of the pirate Jack Sparrow in the previous film, The Curse of the Black Pearl. This action immediately sets the tone. The law is clamping down, and personal freedoms are under siege. Beckett offers Will a deal. In exchange for a pardon, he must retrieve Jack Sparrow's magical compass, a device that points to what the holder desires most. This catalyzes Will's journey and reintroduces Jack, who is now struggling with his own problem. He owes a blood debt to Davy Jones, the ghostly captain of the Flying Dutchman. Key conflict introduced. Jack must find a way to escape his servitude to Davy Jones or face eternal damnation aboard the Flying Dutchman. His goal is to locate the Dead Man's Chest, which holds the still-beating heart of Davy Jones. Whoever possesses the heart controls Jones, and thus the seas. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Middle act. Rising tensions and interwoven quests. This section of the film expands the narrative by layering subplots and introducing new characters and mythologies. Will finds Jack, only to be manipulated into helping him locate the chest. Meanwhile, Jack is being hunted by Jones's monstrous crew, including the terrifying Kraken, summoned by Jones to retrieve souls. Another key player enters, James Norrington, the disgraced former Commodore who has fallen into ruin since the events of the first film. He becomes a wild card, motivated by revenge and a desire to reclaim his honor. The interweaving goals. Jack wants the chest to save himself. Will wants to save Elizabeth and learns his father, Bootstrap Bill Turner, is enslaved on the Flying Dutchman. Elizabeth escapes captivity and joins the fray, aiming to rescue Will. Norrington seeks redemption by capturing the heart to leverage his way back into the Navy. This part of the film introduces a compelling moral ambiguity. All characters are pursuing the chest, but not necessarily for noble reasons. Alliances shift constantly, and trust is a fluid concept. Thematic underpinnings. Freedom versus servitude. Jack's fear of losing his freedom mirrors Will's dilemma regarding his father's soul. Corruption and power. Beckett's manipulation of the law in pursuit of the heart reveals the East India Company's larger agenda, dominion over the seas through control of Davy Jones. Love versus duty. Elizabeth finds herself torn between her love for Will and a growing fascination with Jack's chaotic freedom. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Climax and resolution. Betrayal and consequence. The climax occurs on a remote island where the chest is unearthed. A chaotic 3-way sword fight ensues between Jack, Will, and Norrington, all trying to claim the heart. It's both a physical and symbolic clash, each driven by personal stakes. Ultimately, Norrington steals the heart and flees, setting in motion the East India Trading Company's rise to supernatural power, which pays off in the third film, At World's End. Jack, in a brief moment of selflessness, helps the others escape but is left behind to face the Kraken. Emotional turning point. Elizabeth, Realizing Jack intends to sacrifice himself, kisses him, and then chains him to the mast to ensure the others can escape. This betrayal is deeply emotional and thematically rich. It showcases an evolution from a proper lady into a morally complex pirate. Jack dies, or appears to, as the Kraken drags a black pearl into the depths, marking the darkest moment of the film. This serves as the emotional and narrative low point. Underscore 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 underscore. Ending, setting the stage for the trilogy's conclusion. The crew regroups in Tia Dalma's hut, which offers them a chance to bring Jack back from the dead. The twist arrives when she introduces their guide, Captain Barbossa, resurrected from the first film, who descends the stairs and bites into an apple with a devilish grin. The film ends on a major cliffhanger, establishing that the story is far from over and propelling the narrative into the trilogy's conclusion and at world's end. Underscore 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 underscore. Narrative structure and techniques. While the film follows a linear timeline, it thrives on its interlocking subplots, shifting character motivations, and moral gray areas. It does not experiment with non-linear storytelling or multiple timelines, but it leverages a dramatic irony viewers often know more than the characters. A shifting perspectives as the focus bounces between Jack, Elizabeth, and Norrington. Character-driven conflict where goals clash in unpredictable ways. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: thematic and emotional resonance. Dead Man's Chest deepens the mythos of the franchise by combining supernatural horror, political intrigue, and emotional complexity. Its greatest narrative strengths lie in its relentless pacing, complicated characters with clashing interests, a seamless blend of comedy, action, and tragedy. At its heart, it's a story about freedom versus control, sacrifice versus selfishness, and identity versus duty. Though it serves as a middle installment, often a narrative weak point in trilogies, Dead Man's Chest holds its own by raising the stakes, darkening the tone, and expanding the moral and narrative scope of the series. 2. Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Man's Chest character development. Are the characters well developed and laid? Do they undergo meaningful growth or transformation? How do their relationships, motivations, and arcs shape the overall story? Explained from third-person perspective. Discuss in great detail. ChatGPT said, Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Man's Chest, 2006, stands as a pivotal character-driven installment in the franchise, using a complex plot and mythological expansion to dig deeper into the psychological and emotional dimensions of its core characters. Unlike many sequels that merely repeat established character dynamics, Dead Man's Chest pushes its leads into new moral territories, forcing them to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and each other. Character development is not only central to the story, it drives it. Underscore 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 underscore. Captain Jack Sparrow. The anti-hero confronts mortality. Jack Sparrow remains a charismatic, unpredictable pirate introduced in The Curse of the Black Pearl, but in Dead Man's Chest, he is thrust into a more vulnerable and existential crisis. Where Jack once flirted with danger for fun, he now runs from it in earnest, pursued relentlessly by Davy Jones and his monstrous Kraken. His usual confidence is undercut by genuine fear and desperation, making him more humanized and multidimensional. Key development. Jack's arc revolves around self-preservation versus self-sacrifice. Initially, he manipulates those around him, Elizabeth, and even the crew, to save his own skin. However, as the story progresses, subtle shifts emerge in his behavior. In the final act, when he returns to face the Kraken rather than abandon his ship and crew, Jack takes a step toward heroism, albeit a reluctant one. His decision is framed as a redemptive gesture, hinting at buried nobility beneath the roguish exterior. Relationship dynamics. With Will Turner, their uneasy alliance persists, but now layered with distrust. Jack sees Will as both a tool and a threat. With Elizabeth Swann, their flirtation evolves into something darker. Elizabeth kisses Jack, but does so while betraying him. This moment exposes not just Jack's appeal but his vulnerability to emotional manipulation. Jack's surprise reveals that he didn't expect to be seen as worthy of such a betrayal. Elizabeth Swann, from noblewoman to pirate. Elizabeth undergoes one of the most significant and morally complex transformations. Introduced in the first film as a governor's daughter with a rebellious streak, she emerges here as a morally ambiguous, self-empowered individual, willing to cross lines in pursuit of her goals. Key development. Elizabeth is caught between her love for Will and a growing attraction to the freedom Jack represents. But more importantly, she must reconcile the genteel identity of a noble woman with the cutthroat reality of piracy. Her ultimate betrayal of Jack, kissing him while chaining him to the mast to be devoured by the Kraken, is a turning point of her arc. This act, executed for the greater good, marks a full entry into the pirate world, where hard choices, betrayal, and sacrifice are survival tools. Emotional and moral complexity. She shows guilt after the betrayal, indicating she is not yet desensitized to her new reality. Her agency in escaping Beckett's custody and orchestrating her own journey proves she is no longer a passive character reacting to events. She creates them. Will Turner, the moral compass, faces internal conflict. Will Turner is traditionally the franchise's moral center, and while he retains at core in Dead Man's Chest, his arc is increasingly shaded by desperation and disillusionment. His initial motivation is noble: save Elizabeth and secure their future. However, once he discovers his father, Bootstrap Bill Turner, is enslaved aboard the Flying Dutchman, Will's motivations deepen. Key development. Will becomes more pragmatic and hardened, confronting the truth that idealism alone cannot win against supernatural odds. He gambles, fights, and deceives to meet his ends, marking a shift from the black-and-white moral worldview he once held. Father-son dynamic. His emotional arc is most compelling in his interactions with Bootstrap. The scenes between them humanize both characters and tie Will's personal quest into the supernatural stakes of the larger story. Will's willingness to potentially trade himself for his father reflects growth in his sense of responsibility and sacrifice. James Norrington, the Fallen Man. Commodore Norrington's descent from respected naval officer to disgraced, drunken exile provides one of the film's most tragic arcs. His fall from grace, caused by the fallout from the first film's events, has left him embittered and directionless. When he re-enters the story, he serves as a mirror for the other characters, especially Will and Jack, showing what they could become under the right or wrong circumstances. Key development. Norrington's arc is driven by a thirst for redemption and a return to the order and structure he lost. However, he pursues this not through nobility but by stealing the heart of Davy Jones and delivering it to Beckett. This act is brilliant in its ambiguity, courageous, but also self-serving. His decision reshapes the entire trajectory of the plot, handing the heart to the East India Company and setting up the power struggle of the third film. Davy Jones, the tragic antagonist. Jones could easily have been a one-dimensional villain, but he is given a tragic backstory that subtly parallels the arcs of the heroes. Once a man who fell in love and made a deal with the sea goddess Calypso, Jones was betrayed, and in his heartbreak, he cut out his heart and embraced monstrosity. Key traits: a ruthless and terrifying, but his emotional scars humanize him. His pain mirrors Jack's fear of mortality, Will's bond with his father, and Elizabeth's betrayal of Jack. Jonesy's character also embodies a theme of corruption through heartbreak. He is not evil for the sake of evil. He is a man destroyed by love and turned into a force of terror, making him both monstrous and sympathetic. Underscore 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 underscore. Tier Dalma, the foreshadowing oracle. Tier D, interpersonal relationships as narrative drivers. The film's emotional impact and complexity stem from the way relationships evolve and collide. Jack and Elizabeth's attraction is flirtatious but also symbolic. Each is drawn to what the other represents. Will and Elizabeth's love is tested by secrets, betrayal, and shifting allegiances. Jack and Will's rivalry becomes more personal as the stakes increase. Bootstrap and Will's reunion infuses a story with emotional resonance, grounding the fantastical in human connection. These shifting dynamics create a web of tension that drives the story forward and complicates the character's decision-making. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: character growth as central narrative pillar. Dead Man's Chest excels at character development, especially for a blockbuster sequel. It avoids static characterizations in favor of evolution through conflict. Nearly every major character is transformed by the film's events. Jack Sparrow confronts death and briefly chooses self-sacrifice. Elizabeth Swann sheds her old identity to embrace piracy and moral ambiguity. Will Turner becomes a more complex, driven figure. James Norrington falls and rises through betrayal and cunning. Davy Jones, though an antagonist, is shaped by emotional loss rather than pure malice. These layered character arcs not only shape the story, they are the story. Without them, the film's elaborate plot would be mere spectacle. Instead, it becomes a nuanced exploration of freedom, betrayal, redemption, and identity, told through some of the most iconic characters in modern adventure cinema. Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Man's Chest performances. How well do the actors bring their characters to life? Are there standout performances that elevate the film? Do the leads and supporting cast enhance the emotional depth and believability of the story? Explain from third-person perspective. Discuss in great detail. ChatGPT said, in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the performances of the cast are pivotal to the film's success, transforming what could have been a spectacle-heavy adventure into a character-rich narrative with emotional and thematic weight. Returning and new actors alike bring a balance of humor, intensity, and nuance that deepens the story and enriches its fantastical world. The ensemble is anchored by Johnny Depp's iconic portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow, but the supporting cast, especially Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, Bill Nighy, and Jack Davenport, play crucial roles in elevating the film beyond mere action spectacle. Underscore 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 underscore. Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow, the showman with shadows. Johnny Depp's performance remains the franchise's most defining asset. In Dead Man's Chest, he preserves the signature eccentricities that made Jack Sparrow a pop culture icon, his slurred speech, flamboyant gestures, unpredictable movements, but he also layers in vulnerability and fear that weren't as prominent in the first film. Key aspect of performance. Depp imbues Jack with a manic energy that keeps the character both dangerously chaotic and oddly charismatic. In moments of fear, particularly when facing Davy Jones's Curse of the Kraken, Depp subtly shifts into a darker, more introspective mode. These moments avoid melodrama, yet convincingly portray Jack's existential dread. Depp's comedic timing remains sharp, but but it is now paired with undertones of desperation, making Jack feel more human and less cartoonish than before. Depp's performance is central to the film's tone. His ability to toggle between slapstick and sincerity grounds the story's outlandish fancy elements in emotional truth. Underscore 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 underscore. Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Swann. From damsel to pirate, Keira Knightley delivers one of the film's most impressive and transformative performances. No longer simply a romantic lead or a figure to be rescued, Elizabeth Swann becomes a morally complex, action-capable protagonist. Knightley meets this character evolution with poise and conviction. Performance strengths. Knightley portrays Elizabeth's internal conflict between her love for Will, her attraction to Jack, and her own thirst for agency, with emotional intelligence and restraint. Her betrayal of Jack is a standout moment, played with visible guilt and cold resolve. In action sequences and verbal confrontations, she commands presence, showing that Elizabeth is no longer a passive figure in a male-dominated world. Knightley balances elegance and ferocity, making Elizabeth's shift to piracy believable and compelling. Her performance helps redefine Elizabeth as a true equal among the male leads, giving the film gender complexity it might otherwise lack. Underscore 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 underscore. Orlando Bloom as Will Turner, the stoic heart. Orlando Bloom's portrayal of Will Turner continues to function as a franchise's emotional backbone. In Dead Man's Chest, Bloom steps further into the mature, brooding territory, showing Will as a man caught between duty, love, and the legacy of his father. Highlights of Bloom's performance. Bloom's stoic demeanor serves as a foil to Depp's flamboyance and Knightley's emotional volatility. He plays Will as a measured, morally anchored character, but not without internal struggle. In scenes with Stellan Skarsgård's bootstrap ill, Bloom shows a depth not fully explored in the first film. The grief, guilt, and longing in his expression suggest the weight Will carries as a son trying to rescue his father's soul. His physicality in action scenes is fluid and believable, particularly in the multi-way sword fights. Bloom give Will a graceful, knightly presence that contrasts with Jack's wild improvisation. While not as flashy as Depp, Bloom's grounded performance enhances the emotional realism of the ensemble. Underscore 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 underscore. Bill Nighy as Davy Jones, a motion capture triumph. Bill Nighy's performance as Davy Jones is arguably the film's most technically challenging and surprisingly emotional. Rendered entirely through cutting-edge motion capture and CGI, Jones is a visual marvel, but it is Nighy's voice, facial expressions, and physical choices that give the character soul beneath the slime. Performance impact. Nighy adopts a thick, guttural Scottish accent that makes Jones's speech both menacing and poetic. His diction carries centuries of bitterness and broken love, making his threats feel deeply personal rather than generic. And the sadness in Jones's eyes, meticulously captured through performance technology, brings complexity to what could have been a one-note villain. Nighy plays Jones not as a monster, but as a betrayed lover-turned-tyrant. In scenes like the one where Jones plays the organ with his face tentacles, a moment of eerie serenity, Nighy brings Shakespearean gravitas to a CGI sea creature. His performance elevates Davy Jones into one of cinema's most memorable villains, not just through technology, but through emotive depth and theatrical range. Underscore 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 underscore. Jack Davenport is James Norrington, the fallen aristocrat. Jack Davenport delivers a surprisingly strong and layered performance as James Norrington, who re-emerges in Dead Man's Chest as a disgraced, bitter shell of his former self. Once an upright naval officer, Norrington now slouches through taverns in filthy rags, his pride broken. Performance nuances. Davenport captures the disillusionment and suppressed fury of a man who blames Jack, Elizabeth, and even the sea itself for his downfall. His shift from self-pity to cold ambition is played with impressive restraint. When he steals the heart of Davy Jones and turns it over to the East India Company, his satisfaction is subtle, not gloating. Davenport avoids caricature and keeps the character believable. In ensemble scenes, his presence creates tension. Davenport gives Norrington a quiet menace and unpredictability that hint at the moral grayness defining this film. His arc adds thematic depth to the story and offers a fascinating counterpoint to Jack and Will. Underscore 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 underscore. Supporting cast highlights: Stellan Skarsgård as Bootstrap Bill Turner. Skarsgård brings emotional weight and sorrow to his limited screen time. His haunted performance as a man half consumed by barnacles and regret reinforces the film's themes of damnation, family legacy, and lost time. Naomi Harris as Tia Dalma. Harris gives a mystical, sensual, and slightly unhinged performance as the enigmatic witch. Her lilting accent, body language, and cryptic expressions make her scene feel like a different genre, part voodoo fairy tale, part psychological thriller. She provides narrative exposition without it ever feeling dull or expository, thanks to a commanding presence. Underscore 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 underscore. Ensemble chemistry and emotional cohesion. One of the film's key achievements is how well the cast functions as an ensemble. Scenes with multiple characters, like the three-way sword fight, are bursting with personality, timing, and energy. Emotional stakes are heightened because the actors sell the weight of betrayal, loyalty, and sacrifice. Whether it's Elizabeth's guilt, Will's sense of duty, or Jack's inner turmoil, the cast brings the script's thematic core to life. The believability of the film's outlandish world depends heavily on the conviction of its actors. Thanks to uniformly strong performances, the supernatural elements never feel hollow or absurd. The characters feel emotionally grounded, even as they sail through cursed ships, see monsters, and magical compasses. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: a performance-driven blockbuster. Pirate of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest succeeds not just because of its action and effects, but because of the depth and commitment of its performances. Johnny Depp continues to redefine what a blockbuster protagonist can be, while Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom show significant growth and maturity. Bill Nighy turns a CGI villain into a tragic figure of Shakespearean pathos, and supporting players like Jack Davenport and Stellan Skarsgård round out the cast with gravitas and emotion. The performances enhance not only the believability of the fantastical world, but the emotional depth, interpersonal tension, and thematic resonance of the narrative. It is this human core, brought to life by talented actors, that gives the film its enduring appeal. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Gore Verbinski returns to the helm with a clear ambition to elevate the franchise from a swashbuckling adventure into a dark, expansive, mythologically rich epic. His direction shapes every aspect of the film, from its visual texture and tone to its narrative rhythm and emotional layering, resulting in a sequel that feels bigger, bolder, and more emotionally resonant than its predecessor. Verbinski does not merely continue the story. He deepens and broadens the cinematic world, infusing it with grand spectacle, psychological complexity, and mythic resonance. Underscore 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 underscore. Tone and mood: a darker, more operatic sequel. Verbinski sets the tone from the very first frame. A storm batters Port Royal as Elizabeth Swann stands alone at her ruined wedding. The romantic optimism of the first film is immediately replaced by a melancholic, oppressive atmosphere, a world now haunted by curses, debts, and moral ambiguity. Key contributions to tone. The world feels more dangerous and untamed, amplified by the grotesque imagery of Davy Jones's crew, the foreboding presence of the Kraken, and the decaying, barnacle-encrusted Flying Dutchman. Verbinski injects gothic horror elements into the fantasy-adventure genre. The scenes aboard the Flying Dutchman evoke claustrophobia and despair, supported by dim lighting, wet textures, and dissonant sound design. Yet, the director balances this with moments of absurdist humor, Jack Sparrow being chased by cannibals or awkwardly navigating social dynamics on the Black Pearl. This blend of tones is a Verbinski hallmark, chaos coexisting with grandeur, horror mixed with comedy. By fusing the mystical, the grotesque, and the comedic, Verbinski avoids tonal monotony and sustains audience engagement across a long, intricate narrative. Underscore 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 underscore. Pacing and narrative vision, an epic with layers. At over 2.5 hours, the film is ambitiously paced, and Verbinski makes deliberate choices in how he manages the scope. Unlike the more straightforward first film, Dead Man's Chest involves multiple character arcs and quests converging toward a central object, the titular chest. Narrative control. Verbinski ensures each subplot, Jack's debt, Will's father, Elizabeth's moral dilemma, Norrington's fall, Davy Jones's power, gets adequate screen time without losing narrative clarity. He structures the story around escalating set pieces that punctuate character decisions. Sword fights, chases, and Kraken attacks are not just spectacles. They reflect internal character stakes and choices. Pacing challenges and triumphs. A mid-film slows slightly during exposition-heavy sequences, like Tia Dalma's hut or Davy Jones's backstory, but Verbinski compensates by immediately following them with tense, visually dynamic scenes that re-engage the viewer. The final act, a blend of betrayal, loss, and epic confrontation, moves with operatic intensity, perfectly paced to deliver both action and emotional payoff. Underscore 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 underscore. Visual storytelling and shot composition, cinematic richness. Verbinski and cinematographer Dariusz Wolski craft a film that is not only visually stunning, but also symbolically rich. Every location, from the sun-bleached shores of Pelagosto to the eerie depths of TH. Verbinski's direction during the three-way sword fight on the island is masterclass level. The kinetic camera moves fluidly across shifting terrain, spinning wheels, collapsing towers, teetering bridges, while maintaining spatial clarity and comedic timing. He choreographs these scenes with the rhythm of a dance, blending humor, tension, and character beats in real time. The result is a film that never lets visual spectacle overshadow character or story. Every shot, every set piece has a purpose beyond flash. It furthers theme, builds tension, or reveals something essential. Underscore 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 underscore. Stylistic choices. Mythology meets madness. One of Verbinski's most unique contributions is the blending of folklore, maritime mythology, and absurdism. He introduces supernatural elements with a sense of both wonder and dread. Stylistic signatures. The design of Davy Jones and his crew, each a grotesque fusion of human and sea life, is a visual metaphor for their damnation. Verbinski's direction ensures these aren't just CGI monsters, they are sorrowful, tragic figures. The Kraken is handled with restraint. Its full form is never fully seen, increasing its mythic terror, much like the shark in Jaws. This choice enhances suspense and amplifies the unseen danger. The sequence in which Tia Dalma's hut appears half-submerged, adorned with bones and nautical relics, reflects a surreal, dreamlike aesthetic, a cross between voodoo mysticism and maritime decay. These stylistic flourishes add a painterly quality to the film, impressionistic, darkly whimsical, and sometimes nightmarish. Underscore 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 underscore. Emotional and thematic depth through direction. Beyond visual and tonal command, Verbinski imbues a film with emotional and thematic weight. He explores motifs like of freedom versus obligation, Jack's curse, Will's duty to his father, corruption through heartbreak, Davy Jones's past, of betrayal and self-sacrifice, Elizabeth's decision, Jack's final stand. Verbinski treats these themes seriously, allowing scenes to breathe emotionally, such as the tender, tragic interactions between Will and Bootstrap Bill or the silent grief when Jack is lost to the Kraken. He trusts the audience to engage with these human dilemmas amid the chaos. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: a director in full command of his canvas. Gore Verbinski's direction in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest is a rare achievement. A blockbuster with artistic ambition. He navigates a sprawling, mythology-rich story while maintaining character focus and emotional coherence. His tonal balancing act, between comedy, horror, fantasy, and tragedy, is deft and daring. Through bold visual design, meticulous pacing, and emotional sensitivity, Verbinski crafts a film that is operatic in scope and intimate in character. His stylistic choices, rooted in surrealism, folklore, and the grotesque, elevate the experience from traditional sequel to fantastical epic. In many ways, Dead Man's Chest is not just a continuation of a story, it's a director's canvas, painted with wild imagination, deep emotion, and narrative complexity. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the cinematography, helmed by Dariusz Wolski, a longtime collaborator of director Gore Verbinski, is not merely a tool for visual spectacle, but an essential force that shapes the film's atmosphere, emotional depth, and mythic scale. Wolski's work transcends the boundaries of typical blockbuster visuals by crafting images that are at once painterly, kinetic, and psychologically resonant. Through precise camera movement, carefully controlled lighting, and evocative framing, the cinematography becomes a visual language that speaks to the characters' inner worlds, the dangers they face, and the epic tone of the story. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Visual tone, a darker palette for a darker story. From the outset, the cinematography marks a shift in tone from the swashbuckling vibrancy of the first film to something more moody, ominous, and operatic. The color palette leans into deep blues, greens, and rusted browns, reflecting a world where myth has overtaken reality and where no character is untouched by moral compromise. Lighting and color design. Scenes aboard the Flying Dutchman are lit with damp, greenish hues that suggest rut, decay, and submersion. The dim, almost sickly lighting reinforces the ship's cursed and otherworldly nature. In contrast, the island of Pelagosto is washed in hot, overexposed sunlight, giving the cannibal sequences a dreamlike, absurdist tone, a stark departure from the coldness of the ocean scenes. Tia Dalma's hut is bathed in shadow, pierced by shafts of golden candlelight and blue ambient glow. This creates a magical yet claustrophobic mood, suggesting a liminal space between the natural and the supernatural. Wolski's use of lighting isn't only stylistic, it communicates the emotional states and thematic subtext of each location and moment. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Camera movement, energy, chaos, and elegance. The film's dynamic energy is matched by a cinematographic style that frequently employs fluid, sweeping camera moves to enhance the action and adventure. But it's not all momentum. Stillness is also used with purpose. Examples of effective movement are during the three-way sword fight on the water wheel. The camera becomes a participant, gliding with the characters as the wheel spins through the jungle. Wolski maintains spatial clarity despite the chaos, allowing audiences to stay immersed without becoming disoriented. The choreography of camera and actor movement creates a balletic rhythm. In quieter scenes, such as Jack facing the Kraken on the deck of the Pearl, the camera pulls back slowly, heightening the tension and emphasizing the enormity of the threat he's about to face. These wide compositions also isolate him, underlining his loneliness and looming sacrifice. Wolski's camera is always in dialogue with the drama, moving when emotion surges, holding still when revelation or dread needs to settle. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Framing and composition. Symbolism through visuals. Wolski's compositions are rich with symbolic intent, often reinforcing themes of entrapment, moral ambiguity, and shifting power dynamics. Key examples of framing are the dead man's chest, a literal and symbolic object of desire, is frequently framed in low-angle shots, illuminated or centered to make it feel like an altar, an object of worship and doom. Characters like Davy Jones are often framed in low-key lighting, with half of their face in shadow, emphasizing their internal duality, man versus monster, lover versus tyrant. The Kraken's attack scenes are framed with extreme wide shots to show the futility of human resistance. The Black Pearl is dwarfed in the frame, a speck amid oceanic chaos, reinforcing themes of inevitability and fate. There's also notable use of depth and layering within the frame. Foreground elements, like ship rigging or tentacles, are often used to obscure or surround characters, creating a sense of entrapment or tension. Underscore 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 underscore. The cinematography also plays a crucial role in immersing the audience in the film's richly textured world. The Caribbean seas, rendered in both stormy grays and sapphire blues, create a sense of both beauty and peril. A rain-drenched, candlelit interiors, like the East India Company's offices or Tia Dalma's hut, contrast with the openness of the sea, grounding the myth in spaces of policy, superstition, or mysticism. In the opening scene at the ruined wedding, Elizabeth stands in a washed-out, desaturated palette, veil-soaked, music minimal. The framing is symmetrical and still, emphasizing her emotional numbness and the death of her dreams. Wolski crafts every frame to evoke mood and psychological reality, enriching the fantasy with a visual language that feels grounded in character emotion. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion. Cinematography as mythic canvas. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Dariusz Wolski's cinematography is more than just a vehicle for special effects or action. It is a crucial narrative instrument, painting the story in hues of decay, longing, danger, and wonder. Through atmospheric lighting, innovative camera movement, and symbolic framing, the film achieves a visual identity that is as emotionally potent as it is technically dazzling. Together with Gore Verbinski's vision, Wolski's cinematography helps transform the film into a dark maritime myth, rich with visual poetry and narrative power. Whether capturing a lone pirate against a burning sunset or a ship disappearing into the maw of a sea monster, every image contributes to a cinematic experience that is as haunting as it is breathtaking. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the editing and pacing serve as crucial instruments in shaping the film's tone, maintaining narrative cohesion, and balancing its sprawling, multi-threaded story. Edited by Stephen E. Rivkin, Craig Wood, and Stephen A. Rutter, the film demonstrates an ambitious attempt to manage a wide cast of characters, numerous settings, and intersecting plot lines, each with their own emotional stakes and narrative goals. The result is a film that, while occasionally weighed down by its own scale, largely succeeds in sustaining energy, momentum, and emotional rhythm. The editing acts as both a narrative map and emotional metronome, guiding the viewer through a fantastical world without losing clarity or coherence, even as the story plunges into darker and more mythic terrain. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Structure and flow, a multi-threaded narrative. The film's structure juggles several major storylines. Jack Sparrow's curse and his debt to Davy Jones. Will Turner's quest to save his father. Elizabeth Swann's journey of agency and betrayal. The pursuit of the dead man's chased by multiple parties. James Norrington's fall and redemption. The editing must bridge these threads while maintaining a sense of unified direction. Rivkin and his team achieve this by using clean transitions, thematic parallels, and intercutting to move fluidly between characters and locations. Smooth transitions. Scenes are often connected via visual or audio cues, the sound of waves, a glance at a compass, or the roll of a coin that create a sense of narrative continuity, even when shifting locations. For instance, Jack looking at his black spot may cut to the Flying Dutchman, reinforcing the idea of his impending doom even if the story temporarily follows another character. The film's editing rhythm helps these disparate threads converge organically, especially in the second half when the pursuit of the chess unites all characters. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Set piece instruction, rhythm and escalation. One of the most impressive aspects of the editing is how it handles the film's many action set pieces, particularly those involving multiple characters and physical comedy. The three-way sword fight and spinning water wheel. This sequence is a marvel of precise, kinetic editing. Each cut maintains spatial clarity despite the moving parts, rolling terrain, rotating wheel, and multiple dueling characters. Rhythmically, the editors build the scene like a crescendo, beginning with isolated duels and escalating into a full-blown, chaotic dance of choreography and camera motion. Comedic timing is sharpened by rapid but carefully controlled cuts, Jack hanging off the wheel, while flipping midair, Norrington fending off attackers, all sync to the score's playful urgency. This kind of editing reflects a musical sensibility, where each beat and movement lands in sync with the scene's emotional and narrative tone. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Pacing, balancing scope with momentum. At a runtime of nearly 150 minutes, Dead Man's Chess is undeniably ambitious in length. The pacing follows a deliberate arc, with a slow build-up in the first act, rapid escalation in the middle, and a final act that delivers relentless forward momentum. First act, slower, expository. The early portions, Will and Elizabeth's arrest, Jack's escape from Pelagosto, and visits to Tia Dalma, prioritize world-building and exposition. While some viewers and critics have noted that this AC. Ultimately, the editing is what allows a film to balance madcap adventure, intimate drama, and supernatural horror, creating a seamless and engaging viewing experience that stands out within the fantasy action genre. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the soundtrack and score, composed by the legendary Hans Zimmer, play a pivotal role in shaping the film's grand, mythic, and emotionally charged tone. Building on themes introduced in the first film by Klaus Badelt under Zimmer's mentorship, Zimmer expands a musical landscape with darker, more complex motifs, weaving a tapestry of swashbuckling adventure, eerie mysticism, and tragic romance. His score does not merely accompany the film. It breathes life into its characters, locations, and themes, acting as a sonic mirror to the narrative's emotional and narrative arcs. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Expanding the musical identity of the franchise. Hans Zimmer's work on Dead Man's Chest is marked by both continuity and innovation, while he retains and reorchestrates some familiar motifs, most notably as a pirate. The triumphant theme associated with Jack Sparrow, he introduces several new leitmotifs that reflect the film's darker tone and expanded mythology. Evolution from the first film, or the playful and heroic energy of the Curse of the Black Pearl remains, but is now tempered by ominous, melancholic undertones. The score grows more texturally rich and rhythmically intricate, reflecting the increasingly layered storytelling and moral complexity. Zimmer enhances a franchise's musical identity by giving Dead Man's Chest a more operatic sensibility, with themes that are longer, more emotive, and often tinged with tragedy or dread. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Character and theme leitmotifs. Zimmer employs a Wagnerian approach to character, giving each key figure or narrative element a unique musical signature. Davy Jones's theme, Davy Jones. Arguably the film's most haunting and iconic cue, this piece introduces a sorrowful music box melody, played on a celestial music box piano, which gradually grows into a full orchestral lament. The theme is a masterclass in emotional ambiguity. Initially innocent and delicate, it eventually mutates into a terrifying pipe organ-driven swell, reflecting Davy Jones's tragic fall from love to monstrous vengeance. The organ passages, performed on a grand pipe organ, add gothic grandeur, evoking Jones's cursed soul and the mythic horror of the Flying Dutchman. This motif underscores not only his scenes, but also the moment where characters confront destiny, heartbreak, and moral decay. Jack Sparrow's theme. The beloved Jack Sparrow motif is retained, but Zimmer reshapes it to reflect Jack's increasingly precarious situation. In Dead Man's Chest, it's often rendered with heavier percussion, clashing strings, and a more frenzied tempo, matching Jack's spiraling luck and internal conflict. In comedic moments, the theme leans into its quirky, offbeat phrasing, using pizzicato strings and syncopated rhythms to reinforce Jack's unpredictable nature. The Kraken's theme. Representing inevitable doom, the Kraken's theme is thunderous and primal, built on deep brass and pounding percussion, occasionally reminiscent of a heartbeat or drum of war. It enters the soundtrack with sudden, seismic force, overwhelming both the characters and audience, just as a creature does. Zimmer uses this cue to escalate dread. As soon as the low rumbles begin, viewers know annihilation is near. The music becomes a warning siren, intensifying suspense before a single tentacle appears. Romantic and tragic undercurrents. Elizabeth and Will's theme is more subdued than in the previous film, often woven into the background, suggesting their emotional distance and unspoken conflict. In key scenes, like their confrontation over Jack's sacrifice, the music swells with aching strings and soft horns, reinforcing emotional ambivalence and internal struggle. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Atmosphere, action, and silence. Zimmer's score is remarkable not only for its melodies but for how it shapes mood and rhythm, creating atmosphere. The score enhances the supernatural elements of the story with eerie, ambient textures, whispering choirs, exotic percussion, and dissonant strings. These create a soundscape that feels both fantastical and foreboding. Tia Dalma's scenes are accompanied by low woodwinds and percussive clicks, invoking voodoo mysticism and setting her apart from the rest of the world, musically and narratively. Elevating action sequences. Action cues like the Wheel of Fortune, scored during the spinning wheel sword fight, are thrilling, rhythmically complex, and masterfully synchronize the choreography on screen. Zimmer structures these action scores with rising motifs and relentless pacing, mimicking the spiraling chaos of the battles without ever overwhelming them. The final confrontation with the Kraken, particularly Jack's stand, is backed by swelling brass and, in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, beneath the rollicking adventure and fantastical spectacle, lies a film rich with thematic depth and philosophical undertones. Director Gore Verbinski, screenwriters Ted Elliott and Terry Ruscio, and a returning cast collectively explore mature, morally complex ideas that challenge traditional heroic narratives. Through its characters, conflicts, and visual metaphors, the film becomes more than just a sequel. It's a dark, mythic meditation on freedom, debt, corruption, and betrayal. These themes are woven seamlessly into the narrative, often enhanced by character arcs, visual storytelling, and emotionally charged moments. Rather than delivering its messages through overt exposition, the film allows them to emerge organically through the choices the characters make and the consequences they face. Underscore 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 1. Freedom versus obligation. The illusion of choice. Perhaps the most prominent theme in Dead Man's Chest is the conflict between freedom and responsibility. Every major character is caught in some form of obligation, moral, emotional, or contractual, and the film questions whether true freedom exists in a world governed by debts, deals, and consequences. Ultimately, the editing is what allows a film to balance madcap adventure, intimate drama, and supernatural horror, creating a seamless and engaging viewing experience that stands out within the fantasy action genre. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the soundtrack and score, composed by the legendary Hans Zimmer, play a pivotal role in shaping the film's grand, mythic, and emotionally charged tone. Building on themes introduced in the first film by Klaus Badelt under Zimmer's mentorship, Zimmer expands a musical landscape with darker, more complex motifs, weaving a tapestry of swashbuckling adventure, eerie mysticism, and tragic romance. His score does not merely accompany the film. It breathes life into its characters, locations, and themes, acting as a sonic mirror to the narrative's emotional and narrative arcs. Underscore 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 1. Expanding the musical identity of the franchise. Hans Zimmer's work on Dead Man's Chest is marked by both continuity and innovation. While he retains and reorchestrates some familiar motifs, most notably as a pirate, the triumphant theme associated with Jack Sparrow, he introduces several new leitmotifs that reflect the film's darker tone and expanded mythology. Evolution from the first film, while the playful and heroic energy of the Curse of the Black Pearl remains, but is now tempered by ominous, melancholic undertones. The score grows more texturally rich and rhythmically intricate, reflecting the increasingly layered storytelling and moral complexity. Zimmer enhances a franchise's musical identity by giving Dead Man's Chest a more operatic sensibility, with themes that are longer, more emotive, and often tinged with tragedy or dread. Underscore 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 2. Character and theme leitmotifs. Zimmer employs a Wagnerian approach to character, giving each key figure or narrative element a unique musical signature. Davy Jones's theme, Davy Jones. Arguably the film's most haunting and iconic cue, this piece introduces a sorrowful music box melody, played on a celestial music box piano, which gradually grows into a full orchestral lament. The theme is a masterclass in emotional ambiguity. Initially innocent and delicate, it eventually mutates into a terrifying pipe organ-driven swell, reflecting Davy Jones's tragic fall from love to monstrous vengeance. The organ passages, performed on a grand pipe organ, add gothic grandeur, evoking Jones's cursed soul and the mythic horror of the Flying Dutchman. This motif underscores not only his scenes, but also the moment where characters confront destiny, heartbreak, and moral decay. Jack Sparrow's theme. The beloved Jack Sparrow motif is retained, but Zimmer reshapes it to reflect Jack's increasingly precarious situation. In Dead Man's Chest, it's often rendered with heavier percussion, clashing strings, and a more frenzied tempo, matching Jack's spiraling luck and internal conflict. In comedic moments, the theme leans into its quirky, offbeat phrasing, using pizzicato strings and syncopated rhythms to reinforce Jack's unpredictable nature. The Kraken's theme. Representing inevitable doom, the Kraken's theme is thunderous and primal, built on deep brass and pounding percussion, occasionally reminiscent of a heartbeat or drum of war. It enters the soundtrack with sudden, seismic force, overwhelming both the characters and audience, just as a creature does. Zimmer uses this cue to escalate dread. As soon as the low rumbles begin, viewers know annihilation is near. The music becomes a warning siren, intensifying suspense before a single tentacle appears. Romantic and tragic undercurrents. Elizabeth and Will's theme is more subdued than in the previous film, often woven into the background, suggesting their emotional distance and unspoken conflict. In key scenes, like their confrontation over Jack's sacrifice, the music swells with aching strings and soft horns, reinforcing emotional ambivalence and internal struggle. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Atmosphere, action, and silence. Zimmer's score is remarkable not only for its melodies but for how it shapes mood and rhythm, creating atmosphere. The score enhances the supernatural elements of the story with eerie, ambient textures, whispering choirs, exotic percussion, and dissonant strings. These create a soundscape that feels both fantastical and foreboding. Keira Knightley's scenes are accompanied by low woodwinds and percussive clicks, invoking voodoo mysticism and setting her apart from the rest of the world, musically and narratively. Elevating action sequences. Action cues like the Wheel of Fortune, scored during the spinning wheel sword fight, are thrilling, rhythmically complex, and masterfully synchronize with the choreography on screen. Zimmer structures these action scores with rising motifs and relentless pacing, mimicking the spiraling chaos of the battles without ever overwhelming them. The final confrontation with the Kraken, particularly Jack's stand, is backed by swelling brass and, in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, beneath the rollicking adventure and fantastical spectacle lies a film rich with thematic depth and philosophical undertones. Director Gore Verbinski, screenwriters Ted Elliott and Terry Ruscio, and the returning cast collectively explore mature, morally complex ideas that challenge traditional heroic narratives. Through its characters, conflicts, and visual metaphors, the film becomes more than just a sequel. It's a dark, mythic meditation on freedom, debt, corruption, and betrayal. These themes are woven seamlessly into the narrative, often enhanced by character arcs, visual storytelling, and emotionally charged moments. Rather than delivering its messages through overt exposition, the film allows them to emerge organically through the choices the characters make and the consequences they face. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Freedom versus obligation. The illusion of choice. Perhaps the most prominent theme in Dead Man's Chest is the conflict between freedom and responsibility. Every major character is caught in some form of obligation, moral, emotional, or contractual, and the film questions whether true freedom exists in a world governed by debts, deals, and consequences. Jack Sparrow's illusion of freedom. Jack presents himself as the ultimate free spirit, unbound, unpredictable, self-serving. But as the film progresses, it becomes clear that he is deeply enslaved by a past deal with Davy Jones. The black spot on his hand is a constant visual reminder that freedom always comes at a cost. Jack's arc evolves from selfish evasion to reluctant heroism, culminating in his self-sacrificial stand against the Kraken. His freedom is ironically achieved only through a moment of responsibility, making the theme all the more bittersweet. Will Turner and duty. Will is driven by loyalty to his father, Bootstrap Bill, who now suffers eternal servitude aboard the Flying Dutchman. Will's choices are shaped by his moral compass. He chooses obligation over personal happiness, reinforcing the idea that nobility often comes at the price of freedom. Elizabeth Swann's emotional chains. Elizabeth begins the film as a woman unjustly imprisoned, symbolically and literally robbed of her agency. Her journey is one of moral awakening and internal conflict, ultimately leading to a betrayal of Jack, which she sees as a necessary evil. In doing so, she too sacrifices her emotional freedom, burdened by guilt and self-doubt. The film's message is clear. Freedom is not a given. It is negotiated, earned, and often illusory. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Deals, debt, and the cost of desire. Another central motif is that of debt, not just financial or contractual, but emotional and existential. The narrative revolves around deals struck with supernatural forces that seem generous at first but demand heavy payment in the end. Davy Jones and Faustian bargains. Davy Jones, once a man scorned by love, now enforces the very debts he once succumbed to. His crew is composed of men who traded away their mortality to escape suffering, only to become twisted reflections of their choices. The Flying Dutchman itself becomes a floating metaphor for unfulfilled promises, a ship of regret and consequence. Jack's compass is a moral symbol. The compass, which points to what one most desires, becomes a metaphor for inner truth and temptation. It reveals a character's deepest desires, even when they refuse to confront them. Its unreliability in Jack's hand reflects his moral confusion. He no longer knows what he truly wants, caught between selfishness and responsibility. The idea that what one desires most may ultimately destroy them is woven through every deal made in the film, making a compelling exploration of moral compromise. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Betrayal, trust, and moral ambiguity. Dead Man's Chest is steeped in moral grayness. Trust is constantly tested, and betrayal is not only common, it's often necessary. This theme adds a layer of psychological complexity to what could have been a straightforward good versus evil tale. Elizabeth's betrayal of Jack. Her decision to chain Jack to the mast so the Kraken would take him is the film's most shocking twist. She believes it's the only way to save the rest of the crew, but the moment haunts her. The ambiguity of the kiss she gives Jack before leaving him to die underscores the emotional and moral weight to her action. Did she feel love? Was it manipulation? The film doesn't answer outright, leaving the viewer to sit in the discomfort. Norrington's moral collapse. Formerly a nobleman, Norrington becomes a fallen figure, corrupted by humiliation and bitterness. His decision to steal the heart of Davy Jones for personal gain shows that even the seemingly righteous can be seduced by power. His arc reflects the theme that honor is fragile, and survival often requires compromise. In a world where every character betrays or is betrayed, Dead Man's Chest asks, can heroism exist without sacrifice? Can love survive in a world ruled by deals and deception? Underscore 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 underscore. 4. Love and loss, the fragility of human connection. At its core, the film is also a tragedy about broken relationships and the emotional cost of adventure and ambition. Davy Jones and Calypso. While Jones is the antagonist, his backstory reveals a tragic dimension. He was once in love with the sea goddess Calypso, who betrayed him. His cruelty is fueled by this heartbreak. The music box he plays, the tears he sheds, and the organ he plays in solitude are haunting reminders that even monsters were once men in love. His character suggests that grief, when left unresolved, can transform love into rage and isolation. Bootstrap and Will. Their reunion is a powerful emotional anchor in the film, driven by guilt, pride, and unspoken love. Bootstrap's choice to save his son, despite the cost to himself, offers a glimpse of redemption through sacrifice, one of the few sincere emotional triumphs in an otherwise morally murky story. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Power, corruption, and institutional control. The presence of Cutler Beckett and the East India Trading Company introduces a theme of corporate imperialism and systemic control. In contrast to the supernatural threats posed by Davy Jones and the Kraken, Beckett represents real-world power, cold, bureaucratic, and relentless. His acquisition of Davy Jones's heart symbolizes man's attempt to dominate myth, magic, and nature through greed and control. It also foreshadows the trilogy's latest shift into more overt critiques of empire and colonialism. This layer of the story critiques how institutions exploit fear and commodify freedom, adding a socio-political dimension to the film's themes. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: a thematic storm beneath the surface. While Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest may be remembered by casual viewers for its thrilling sword fights, Kraken attacks, and Jack Sparrow's eccentric swagger, it is, upon closer inspection, a film that grapples with profound, often unsettling questions about human nature. From the high seas of adventure rise themes of freedom, moral compromise, emotional debt, betrayal, and the cost of desire. These themes are not tacked on. They are interwoven into character arcs, narrative structure, and visual symbolism, making the film a deeply layered experience. Rather than offering simple answers or neat resolutions, Dead Man's Chest leaves viewers with a lingering unease and a rich tapestry of ideas to reflect upon. In doing so, it elevates a film from mere entertainment to mythic tragedy, disguised as a blockbuster. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the visual effects and CGI represent a significant leap forward in blockbuster filmmaking, seamlessly blending digital wizardry with practical craftsmanship to create a world that feels both otherworldly and tactile. The film's VFX work, primarily handled by Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, is not merely a tool for spectacle, but a narrative and atmospheric force, enhancing everything from character expression to mythological horror. Under the direction of Gore Verbinski, the visual effects serve a clear artistic vision, to craft a seafaring fantasy where supernatural elements feel grounded in reality and where digital artistry never overshadows the emotional or thematic heart of the film. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Davy Jones, a landmark in CGI character realism. At the core of the film's VFX achievement is Davy Jones, portrayed by Bill Nighy using motion capture. Jones is arguably one of the most convincing CGI characters in film history up to that point, astonishing not only for the detail of his design but for the subtlety of his facial expressions, emotional nuance, and how he interacts with the physical environment. Key aspects of his realism. Jones's tentacled beard moves independently, mimicking sea life with unpredictable and organic motion, a technical feat that remains impressive even by today's standards. His skin texture, covered in barnacles and rot, reflects dampness, age, and decay, without ever appearing artificial. Lighting interacts naturally with his surfaces, whether in moonlight or the dank hull of the Flying Dutchman. Most importantly, Jones's performance is emotionally legible. ILM's digital work preserves the micro-expressions of Bill Nighy's performance, allowing Jones to be both terrifying and heartbreakingly human. This is a character where CGI doesn't distract. It becomes invisible, fully integrated into the emotional storytelling. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. The Flying Dutchman crew, grotesque beauty and design. Each member of Davy Jones's crew is a unique visual creation, merging human form with sea creature anatomy in nightmarish and symbolic ways. They are living metaphors of corruption and spiritual decay, and the visual effects support that idea through detail and variety, blending CGI and practical effects. Some characters, such as Macca's, with a hammerhead shark skull, are fully digital, while others are enhanced with prosthetics and animatronics. The seamless integration of these approaches allows scenes to retain a sense of physical weight. The use of moist, slimy textures, glistening surfaces, and deformities that move with the character's actions gives the crew a disturbing, realistic presence. These designs create a grotesque aesthetic, aligning with the film's darker tone, and are never gratuitous. They reflect the psychological and moral state of those cursed to serve aboard the Dutchman. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. The Kraken: Scale, Power, and Cinematic Terror. The Kraken, the film's other major digital creation, is deployed with deliberate restraint. Like the shark in Jaws, its full body is never shown in a single shot, making it feel larger and more terrifying. Strengths of its design and execution. The tentacles are rendered with impressive physics, interacting with ships by tearing through wood, dragging sailors into the depths, and pulling entire vessels under with brute force. Water effects, spray, splashes, and foam are integrated into the animation to heighten realism. The editing and cinematography enhance the Kraken's horror, often showing from the POV of terrified sailors or from above, where it appears as a mythic force of nature, unstoppable and inevitable. The Kraken isn't just a monster, it's a thematic embodiment of fate and judgment, and the VFX team supports this narrative purpose with terrifying visual grandeur. Underscore 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 underscore. 4. Environmental effects: Immersive world building. Visual effects are also used to enhance environments and landscapes in ways that feel organic to the film's setting and tone. Notable examples. The island of Pelagosto, inhabited by cannibals, features a digitally enhanced jungle that feels both vibrant and claustrophobic. The maelstrom-like sea during storm sequences is digitally manipulated to convey mood, reflecting emotional or narrative tension. The Flying Dutchman, when surfacing or submerging, is a marvel of layered effects, foam, water displacement, creaking hulls, all contributing to a sense of eerie realism. None of these elements call attention to themselves as CGI moments. They are woven into the film's world as natural extensions of the mythology. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Practical versus digital, a harmonious balance. One of the film's great strengths is its commitment to practical effects where possible, ensuring that even in a CGI-heavy production, there remains a physical foundation. Blending technique for immersion. Our ship sets were built on gimbals and used in conjunction with green screen and digital extensions, allowing actors to perform in real environments while visual effects expanded the world around them. Real explosions, stunt work, and water tanks were used in Kraken attack sequences, giving scenes tactile urgency that digital effects underscore. Creating a tangible, lived-in world. The film sets and locations eschew glossy, sanitized versions of pirate life in favor of gritty, weathered, and detailed environments that convey a sense of history and realism. Authenticity through detail. The design team pays meticulous attention to textures, where ensues, from the barnacle-encrusted wood of the Flying Dutchman to the rusted, creaking mechanisms aboard ships. Everyday objects, ropes, barrels, maps, weapons, are rendered with care, contributing to a tangible sense of place. Our interiors, such as the brig where Elizabeth is held or the mysterious hut of Tia Dalma, are filled with cultural and mystical artifacts, enriching the world building and hinting at unseen histories. This attention to detail creates environments that feel inhabited, supporting character actions and emotional beats naturally. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. The role of iconic locations in storytelling. The film's narrative takes the characters through a variety of striking and symbolically charged locations, each contributing to the thematic and emotional resonance of the story. Port Royal. Returning from the first film, Port Royal now feels darker and more oppressive, reflecting the loss of moral ambiguity that has settled over the story. The opening sequence, with Elizabeth's ruined wedding and the brewing storm, uses the town's architecture and weather to set a tone of impending doom. Isla de Peligosto, Cannibal Island. This vibrant and hostile jungle island stands in stark contrast to the civilized Port Royal. Its lush but dangerous landscape heightens a sense of adventure and peril. The tribal village, with its detailed masks, totems, and huts, is both exotic and menacing, embodying the film's theme of unknown, untamed nature. The use of practical sets combined with digital extensions allows a location to feel expansive and immersive. Tia Dalma's hut. The hut is a masterpiece of mystical design, blending voodoo symbolism, maritime decay, and surrealism. The half-submerged structure, adorned with bones, skulls, and nautical relics, visually represents Tia Dalma's liminal status, part human, part sea spirit. This setting deepens the mythological undercurrent of the film, grounding supernatural elements in a visually striking environment. The Flying Dutchman. As both a setting and a character, the Flying Dutchman's design is integral to the film's mood. The ship's barnacle-covered, rusted, and almost organic appearance communicates decay, damnation, and imprisonment. The claustrophobic interiors, dim lighting, and dripping water reinforce the crew's cursed existence. Its menacing and otherworldly look contrasts sharply with a relatively bright and open black pearl, emphasizing thematic oppositions such as freedom versus bondage. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Practical locations and their impact. Filming on location in places such as Caribbean islands, the coast of Hawaii, and various sound stages provides authenticity and scale to the film. The natural landscapes, tropical beaches, dense jungles, and stormy seas offer a vivid backdrop that enhances the film's adventurous spirit. A practical watercraft, real ships, and large-scale sets allow actors to perform within genuine environments, which translates to more convincing performances and interactions. The seamless integration of physical locations with digital extensions ensures that even fantastical settings feel grounded. Underscore 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 underscore. 4. Visual symbolism embedded in design. Production design in Dead Man's Chest is not merely decorative. It carries symbolic meaning that reinforces themes and character arcs. The contrast between the vibrant, colorful Black Pearl and the decrepit Flying Dutchman visually represents the conflict between life and death, freedom and servitude. The stormy weather and decaying architecture in Port Royal echo the film's themes of loss and impending doom. Objects such as Davy Jones's organ, the Dead Man's Chest itself, and encompass all actors' visual motif that connect narrative and thematic strands. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Mood, atmosphere, and immersion. The combination of lighting, color palette, and detailed set dressing creates a richly atmospheric world. The muted, often shadowed tones aboard the Flying Dutchman generate a claustrophobic and eerie feeling. In contrast, brighter, warmer colors in jungle and seaside scenes evoke both exoticism and underlying danger. Weather effects, rain, fog, and ocean spray are expertly incorporated to heighten emotion and emotional tone. This atmospheric consistency ensures the film's world feels cohesive and lived in, supporting audience engagement. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: a fully realized world that enhances storytelling. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, set design and locations are fundamental to the film's success in building a believable and compelling universe. The production design team's meticulous craftsmanship, combined with authentic practical locations and imaginative sets, creates environments that are visually stunning, thematically rich, and narratively functional. By grounding fantastical elements in tactile detail and symbolic visuals, the film's settings deepen character motivations, underscore thematic concerns, and heighten emotional resonance. The result is a world that feels alive and integral to the story, inviting viewers not just to watch an adventure, but to inhabit its thrilling, dangerous seas alongside its characters. Boundaries, resulting in a richly layered cinematic experience that balances action, suspense, humor, and drama effectively. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Adherence to classic genre conventions. At its core, Dead Man's Chest is grounded in the pirate adventure genre, and it follows many of its hallmark conventions. A high-seas adventure, the film delivers thrilling ship battles, daring sword fights, and exotic island escapades, central staples of pirate lore. A heroic quest. The narrative revolves around quests and missions. Jack Sparrow's desperate attempt to escape his debt to Davy Jones, Will Turner's mission to save his father, and Elizabeth's efforts to protect those she loves. A moral ambiguity. Pirates are inherently roguish, and the film embraces this ambiguity, with characters who shift loyalties and motives, reflecting the genre's classic anti-horror tradition. A romantic subplot. The evolving tension and affection between Will and Elizabeth provide an emotional anchor common to adventure tales. These elements satisfy audience expectations for a swashbuckling spectacle and pay homage to the genre's rich history. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Subversion and expansion of genre norms. Where Dead Man's Chest distinguishes itself is in its expansion and subversion of traditional genre boundaries. A dark fantasy and horror elements. Unlike conventional pirate stories that lean toward light-hearted adventure, this film delves deeply into mythology and the supernatural, introducing eerie, unsettling figures like Davy Jones and his cursed crew. The Flying Dutchman's ghostly ship and the terrifying Kraken introduce horror aesthetics that subvert the usually romanticized pirate genre. Psychological complexity. Characters are burdened by curses, debts, and tragic pasts. Jack's looming fate, Davy Jones's heartbreak, and Will's filial guilt at layers of emotional and psychological depth uncommon in straightforward adventure fare. A moral complexity. The film refrains from clear-cut good versus evil narratives. Jack Sparrow operates by his own chaotic code. Elizabeth is caught between duty and desire. Davy Jones is a villain shaped by heartbreak, inviting both fear and sympathy. This blending of fantasy, horror, and psychological drama expands the genre's emotional and thematic range. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Balance of action, suspense, humor, and drama. The film expertly weaves together multiple tonal threads, maintaining a delicate balance that sustains audience engagement. Action. Dead Man's Chest features meticulously choreographed battles and set pieces, sword fights, ship-to-ship combat, and a dramatic Kraken attack. They are both exhilarating and narratively significant. Suspense. The supernatural elements and looming threats generate palpable tension, particularly scenes involving the Kraken and Davy Jones's pursuit of Jack. Humor. The screenplay and performances inject consistent humor, primarily through Jack's eccentric antics and witty banter. This humor lightens the darker moments without undermining the stakes, creating a signature tonal mix. Drama, emotional arcs, such as Will's relationship with his father and Elizabeth's moral dilemmas, provide grounding moments of sincerity and pathos amid the spectacle. This tonal diversity prevents the film from becoming one-dimensional, offering varied emotional rhythms that appeal to a broad audience. Underscore 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 underscore. 4. Use of genre tropes and avoidance of cliches. While the film does use certain pirate genre tropes, such as treasure hunts, betrayal among pirates, and rum-fueled antics, it generally avoids feeling cliched due to its complex character motivations. Characters are driven by personal stakes rather than simplistic archetypes. Of innovative supernatural mythology, the introduction of cursed crews, mystical chests, and oceanic monsters refreshes familiar pirate motifs. Of self-awareness and irony, the script often plays with genre expectations, using humor and meta-commentary to subvert typical pirate movie formulas. Thus, the film respects genre traditions while injecting originality and self-reflexivity. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Integration of mythology and world building. A significant genre innovation in Dead Man's Chest is its deep dive into maritime mythology, incorporating folklore in ways that enrich the story. The character of Davy Jones is more than a villain. He embodies themes of love, loss, and damnation. The Kraken serves as an elemental, mythic force rather than just a monster. Magical artifacts like the Dead Man's Chest and Jack's compass are steeped in narrative symbolism. This mythological layer elevates the film beyond conventional action-adventure, giving it a fantastical epic dimension. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: genre execution that honors tradition while innovating. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest successfully navigates a delicate line between honoring pirate adventure conventions and subverting them. By integrating dark fantasy elements, psychological complexity, and mythic storytelling, it transcends the expected genre boundaries and offers a rich, multi-layered experience. The film's deft tonal balance, melding action, suspense, humor, and drama, ensures that it remains engaging and emotionally resonant. It neither relies solely on cliches nor abandons genre expectations, instead crafting a fresh, vibrant take on pirate cinema that appeals to both traditional fans and modern audiences. In essence, Dead Man's Chest stands as a genre hybrid, part classic swashbuckler, part supernatural thriller, and part tragic epic, showcasing how genre execution can evolve without losing the core thrills of pirate adventure. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, while the film primarily functions as a high-seas fantasy adventure, it subtly weaves in social and cultural commentary that reflects broader human concerns and, to some extent, contemporary issues, though these are often conveyed through allegory and myth rather than direct political discourse. The commentary is integrated organically within the narrative and character arcs, allowing the film to engage with complex themes without feeling didactic or forced. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Exploration of freedom and authority. At the heart of the film lies an ongoing tension between individual freedom and institutional control, a theme that resonates beyond its historical setting. The pirates are symbols of rebellion. The characters, especially Jack Sparrow and his crew, embody resistance to traditional authority and rigid social structures. Their roguish behavior and disdain for rules can be read as a metaphor for contemporary skepticism toward bureaucracy, governance, or social conformity. Conversely, the East India Trading Company and naval forces represent institutional power, order, and colonial expansion, which is portrayed as often ruthless and oppressive. This dynamic reflects modern anxieties about power, autonomy, and resistance, making the pirate world a canvas for examining struggles between freedom and control. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Debt, obligation, and moral ambiguity. The motif of debt, both literal and metaphorical, is central to the story and carries social resonance. Jack Sparrow's debt to Davy Jones symbolizes how individuals are often trapped by obligations, be they financial, moral, or emotional. Will Turner's quest to save his father and Elizabeth's political compromises highlight the complexity of loyalty and personal responsibility. The film acknowledges that characters frequently navigate gray moral areas, refusing to paint decisions or people as simply good or evil. This nuanced approach can be interpreted as commentary on the complex nature of ethical decision-making in contemporary society, where choices are rarely clear-cut and individuals face competing pressures. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Colonialism and cultural encounter. Though not explicitly framed as a critique, the film's depiction of colonial powers, indigenous peoples, and exotic locales carries undertones that invite reflection on cultural imperialism and its consequences. The portrayal of the East India Trading Company as a powerful, often unscrupulous force hints at historical critiques of colonial exploitation. Our encounters with native tribes on Pelagosto and the representation of cannibals reflect typical adventure tropes, but also raise questions about cultural stereotyping and othering. Other mystical and spiritual elements, such as Tia Dalma's voodoo-inspired character, introduce Afro-Caribbean cultural motifs, though filtered through a fantastical lens. While the film does not overtly challenge colonial narratives, these elements open space for dialogue about cultural encounters and appropriation, albeit indirectly. Underscore 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 underscore. 4. Death, fate, and human mortality. The supernatural elements also provide a meditation on mortality and the human condition, topics with universal cultural significance. Davy Jones's curse, his torment over lost love, and the inevitability of death all evoke reflections on how humans confront loss, regret, and the passage of time. The Kraken, as an unstoppable force, can be seen as a metaphor for uncontrollable destiny or natural disaster. Jack's refusal to fully accept his fate embodies a tension between free will and destiny, a classic human dilemma. These themes resonate across cultures and time periods, providing the film with a philosophical subtext that elevates it beyond mere entertainment. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Handling of sensitive and complex topics. Given its blockbuster nature and broad audience, Dead Man's Chest approaches complex social themes with a light touch, favoring allegory and spectacle over overt commentary. The film avoids heavy-handedness, allowing thematic ideas to emerge naturally through character conflicts and mythic storytelling. Some aspects, like the depiction of indigenous cultures or colonial forces, remain rooted in genre conventions and may feel outdated or simplistic by modern standards. However, the emotional honesty in personal relationships and struggles, especially regarding sacrifice, loyalty, and freedom, offers genuine insight and avoids trivialization. This balance makes the film accessible while still providing room for deeper reflection. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: subtle and allegorical social commentary. While Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest does not position itself as a direct social or political critique, it integrates relevant cultural themes subtly and organically. Through its mythological storytelling and richly drawn characters, the film engages with enduring human concerns: freedom versus authority, moral complexity, mortality, and cultural encounter, in ways that invite thoughtful consideration without overshadowing its adventurous spirit. Its approach to social commentary is symbolic rather than explicit, allowing audiences to interpret the narrative's deeper implications while enjoying the thrilling spectacle. Thus, the film succeeds in addressing complex topics with nuance and care, making its cultural messages feel woven into the fabric of the story rather than forced upon it. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the film excels at engaging its audience emotionally and viscerally, delivering a rollercoaster experience that balances thrills, humor, and poignant moments. It captures viewers' attention through a combination of dynamic storytelling, compelling characters, and spectacular set pieces, creating multiple avenues for emotional resonance and ongoing audience investment. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Emotional resonance and character connections. The film deepens the emotional stakes set by its predecessor by further developing relationships that invite genuine empathy. The father-son relationship between Will Turner and Bootstrap Bill is a standout emotional thread. Their tragic history and Bootstrap Bill's fate create moments of genuine pathos, eliciting feelings of sorrow and sympathy. These scenes provide weight and humanity amid the fantasy. The ambiguous, chaotic nature of Jack Sparrow is a major draw for audiences. His blend of charm, humor, and vulnerability fosters emotional complexity, making viewers root for him despite his flaws and selfishness. The romantic tension between Will and Elizabeth continues to engage audiences emotionally, with moments of longing, sacrifice, and conflict. These character dynamics invite the audience to invest emotionally beyond the surface-level adventure. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Moments that elicit strong reactions. Dead Man's Chest is crafted to provoke a spectrum of responses through its tonal variety and dramatic beats. Laughter. Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow, with his eccentric mannerisms and witty improvisations, provides consistent comic relief. The film includes numerous scenes of physical comedy and verbal banter that provoke laughter, lightening the tension and making the characters more relatable. Excitement. The film delivers high-octane action sequences, the intense three-way sword fight on the island, the ship battles, and especially the Kraken attack, which generate adrenaline and exhilaration. These sequences are meticulously choreographed to maintain suspense and awe. A shock and suspense, the sudden appearance and destructive power of the Kraken evoke fear and surprise, while betrayals and unexpected twists, such as Jack's capture by Davy Jones, provide emotional shocks that keep audiences on edge. Of sadness and pathos, scenes involving Davy Jones's tragic backstory and Bootstrap Bill's fate tap into deeper emotional wells, evoking a sense of loss and melancholy uncommon in blockbuster action films. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Invitations for discussion and reflection. Beyond immediate reactions, the film encourages viewers to think more deeply. The moral ambiguity of characters, especially Jack Sparrow and Davy Jones, invites debate about ethics, loyalty, and redemption. Themes such as freedom versus obligation, the cost of sacrifice, and the nature of fate provoke reflection on human dilemmas. The rich mythological and supernatural elements stimulate curiosity about lore and symbolism, encouraging audiences to explore and interpret the film's fantastical world. This complexity contributes to the film's rewatchability, as viewers often return to uncover new layers or appreciate nuances missed the first time. Underscore 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 underscore. 4. Sustained engagement through world-building and visual spectacle. The film's elaborate world-building, from the eerie Flying Dutchman to exotic islands and cursed treasure, immerses audiences fully, sustaining attention across its lengthy runtime. The blend of practical effects and cutting-edge CGI creates a visually captivating experience that continuously captivates. Our intricate set pieces, combined with a dynamic narrative structure, maintain rhythmic pacing that prevents stagnation. This immersive quality keeps viewers invested both emotionally and visually. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Cultural impact and fan community engagement. Dead Man's Chest has proven to be a cultural touchstone, sparking fan discussions, theories, and appreciation for its blend of humor, fantasy, and adventure. Memorable lines in Jack Sparrow's idiosyncratic behavior have become iconic, fueling audience nostalgia. The film's cliffhanger ending invites anticipation and speculation, encouraging active fan engagement and excitement for the franchise's continuation. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: a film that connects on multiple emotional and intellectual levels. Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest succeeds in engaging its audience on a broad emotional spectrum, delivering laughter, thrills, sorrow, and wonder. Its carefully crafted characters and high-stakes narrative invite both immediate reactions and deeper reflection. The film's balance of spectacle and heart, along with its mythic storytelling, fosters a lasting connection that encourages repeat viewings and ongoing discussion. Ultimately, Dead Man's Chest is not just an action-packed sequel. It is a multidimensional experience that resonates deeply, leaving viewers entertained, moved, and intellectually stimulated. In Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest, the film occupies a distinctive space both within its franchise and the broader adventure fantasy genre, while also reflecting notable aspects of Gore Verbinski's directorial style. When compared to similar films, it simultaneously adheres to certain genre conventions and innovates by expanding narrative scope, emotional depth, and visual ambition. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. Comparison within the franchise. As the second installment in the Pirates of the Caribbean series, Dead Man's Chest marks a significant evolution from the original film. From introduction to expansion, whereas The Curse of the Black Pearl primarily served to establish characters, world, and tone, Dead Man's Chest deepens the mythology and raises the stakes. The sequel introduces darker themes, mortality, debt, betrayal, that contrast with the first film's lighter swashbuckling tone. Our increased complexity, the narrative structure becomes more layered, juggling multiple intersecting storylines involving Jack's debt to Davy Jones, Will's family ties, and Elizabeth's moral conflicts. This complexity distinguishes it from the relatively straightforward quest narrative of the original. A larger scale and spectacle, Dead Man's Chest elevates the franchise's production values, showcasing elaborate set pieces like the Kraken attack and the Flying Dutchman's eerie world, creating a more immersive and cinematic experience. In this way, the film is both a continuation and a bold expansion, deepening the franchise's mythos and tonal range. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. Position in the adventure fantasy genre. Within the broader context of adventure and fantasy films, Dead Man's Chest blends classic genre conventions with modern innovations. A use of myth and folklore. Unlike many pirate or adventure films that focus on treasure hunts or action, this film integrates rich maritime mythology, notably the legend of Davy Jones and the supernatural Flying Dutchman. This layering of folklore offers thematic depth uncommon in typical genre fare. A tone and style. The film's oscillation between horror elements, grotesque sea creatures, the Kraken, dark drama, characters' emotional struggles, and slapstick humor, Jack's antics, sets it apart from more tonally uniform genre films. This tonal hybridity enriches the experience and broadens audience appeal. Technological innovation. Visually, it stands alongside other early 2000s blockbusters like the Lord of the Rings trilogy in pioneering sophisticated CGI that enhances storytelling without overwhelming practical effects. Compared to contemporaries, it balances spectacle and narrative in a way that pushes the adventure genre toward more mature, emotionally layered storytelling. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Comparison to Gore Verbinski's filmography. Dead Man's Chest reflects many trademarks of Gore Verbinski's directorial style, while also showcasing his growth. A blend of genres, Verbinski's films often mix humor with darker themes, Scene in the Ring, horror with emotional depth, and Mouse Hunt comedy. In Dead Man's Chest, he combines fantasy, horror, and comedy, exemplifying his skill in balancing disparate tones. A visual flair and atmosphere. The film exhibits Verbinski's keen visual sensibility, with meticulously composed shots and atmospheric settings. His use of lighting, color palettes, and production design to evoke mood is consistent with his approach in previous works. Emotional focus. Verbinski's emphasis on character-driven narratives amidst genre conventios. Thus, Dead Man's Chest strikes a balance between honoring genre and franchise conventions while innovating in tone, scope, and character complexity. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Overall standing and legacy. Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Man's Chest is often regarded as a benchmark for sequels within blockbuster franchises, illustrating how a follow-up can successfully broaden narrative horizons without losing the original spirit. It influenced subsequent fantasy adventure films in embracing mythology and darker themes. Its success cemented Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow as a cultural icon and expanded the franchise's global appeal. Compared to many sequels that falter, it maintained audience engagement and critical appreciation for its ambition and craftsmanship. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: a bold sequel that both honors and expands genre and franchise conventions. In sum, Dead Man's Chest stands as a distinctive and ambitious entry in the pirate adventure genre and the Pirates franchise. It innovates through deepened mythology, emotional complexity, and striking visual effects while retaining the core elements that endeared the original to audiences. Within Gore Verbinski's filmography, it represents a high watermark of tonal balance and visual storytelling on a blockbuster scale. Though it follows some familiar formulas, the film's willingness to embrace darker themes and narrative complexity sets it apart, ensuring it remains a compelling and influential work in its genre. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the film is rich with symbolism and metaphorical imagery that deepen its thematic resonance and enrich its storytelling. Beyond its swashbuckling surface, the narrative and visual design employ recurring motifs and hidden cues that underscore central ideas such as freedom, debt, mortality, and transformation. Underscore 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 underscore. 1. The dead man's chest is a symbol. The titular chest is not merely a plot device but a potent symbol of mortality and fate. The chest contains the heart of Davy Jones, representing the fragile nature of life and the power of death. Possessing the heart is akin to holding someone's fate, control over life and death itself. This metaphor amplifies the theme of how characters grapple with destiny and the consequences of trying to escape it. Debt and burden. The chest embodies a debt that Jack Sparrow owes to Davy Jones. More broadly, it symbolizes the burdens, whether financial, emotional, or moral, that the characters carry and attempt to pay off or evade. A temptation and power. The chess allure reflect the human temptation for control and power, even at great cost, echoing classic pirate lore about cursed treasure and the dangerous allure of greed. Underscore 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 underscore. 2. The Kraken is a metaphor for inevitable doom. The Kraken functions as a recurring visual and narrative metaphor. An inescapable fate, this monstrous sea creature symbolizes the unstoppable forces that pursue the characters, be it death, guilt, or past mistakes. Its relentless attacks mirror the inescapability of consequences, especially Jack's looming debt. Of the unknown and fear, the Kraken's half-seen, shadowy presence evokes primal fears of the unknown depths, amplifying the film's themes of dread and the supernatural. Underscore 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 underscore. 3. Davy Jones and his crew, symbols of corruption and loss. Davy Jones and his cursed crew are visual metaphors for corruption through broken promises. Jonesy's tragic backstory, abandoned love and betrayal, reflects how heartbreak and regret can corrupt the soul. The grotesque physical manifestations, tentacles, barnacles, crab claws, symbolize the inescapable transformation wrought by guilt and damnation. Of the cost of duty, Jones's eternal servitude to furry souls represents the crushing weight of obligation, reinforcing themes of sacrifice and imprisonment, both literal and metaphorical. Underscore 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 underscore. 4. The Flying Dutchman, a haunted, limbo-like space. The Flying Dutchman, with its dark, claustrophobic design, functions as a metaphor for liminality, or between life and death. The ship's eerie atmosphere and submerged hull symbolize the threshold between worlds, the living and the dead, freedom and servitude. Of isolation and despair, the gloomy, waterlogged interiors reflect emotional isolation, mirroring Davy Jones's own internal torment. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Recurring motifs of chains, locks, and keys. Throughout the film, objects such as chains, locks, and keys appear repeatedly, of symbolizing bondage and freedom. These motifs underscore the tension between imprisonment, Jack's contract with Jones, will familial duty, and the yearning for freedom. Control over fate. Keys, literal and figurative, represent the power to unlock destiny or break curses, aligning with the film's focus on choice versus predestination. Underscore 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 underscore. 6. Water as a symbolic element. Water functions on multiple metaphorical levels. Of the unconscious and the unknown, the vast treacherouses represent the subconscious mind's mysteries and phase. Encounters with the ocean often coincide with moments of uncertainty or transformation. Cleansing and danger. Water embodies dual meanings. While it can wash away sins or offer rebirth, e.g., tear down the swamp hut as a mystical threshold, it also harbors deadly threats like the kraken. Underscore 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 underscore. 7. Jack Sparrow's compass, a metaphor for desire and identity. Jack's unique compass, which points to what the holder most desires, symbolizes the elusiveness of true desire. The compass reflects Jack's restless spirit and the ambiguity of his goals, often shifting and hard to pin down. A guidance beyond the material. Unlike a traditional compass, it doesn't point north, suggesting that true navigation requires understanding one's inner motivations rather than external direction. Underscore 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 underscore. 8. Visual cues enhancing themes. Color palette. The film's frequent use of muted, desaturated tones during scenes aboard the Flying Dutchman or involving Davy Jones contrasts sharply with the brighter, warmer colors of the pirate crew and islands. This contrast symbolizes life versus death, hope versus despair. Or lighting. Strategic use of shadows and flickering lanterns evoke mystery and suspense, mirroring the characters' moral ambiguities. A costume and makeup. The grotesque sea creature elements on Jones's crew visually manifest the internal corruption and curse, reinforcing the film's blending of physical and psychological decay. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion. Symbolism as a narrative and emotional amplifier. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, symbolism and metaphor are woven intricately into both story and visuals, enriching the film's exploration of mortality, freedom, fate, and the human condition. These deeper layers invite viewers to engage not only with the adventure but also with the philosophical undercurrents beneath the surface. By embedding meaning in objects like the Dead Man's Chest, creatures like the kraken, and spaces like the Flying Dutchman, the film transforms its supernatural elements into expressive metaphors that heighten emotional impact and thematic depth. This symbolic richness elevates the narrative from a May pirate romp to a mythic tale of human struggle and consequence. Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Man's Chest occupies a pivotal role within the broader Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, significantly contributing to the ongoing narrative arc while expanding the mythos and deepening character development. Although not a historical film in the strict sense, it draws loosely from pirate lore and 18th century maritime culture, yet its priority lies in fantastical storytelling rather than historical accuracy. Underscore 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 underscore. Contribution to the franchise's overarching narrative. Dead Man's Chest is the second installment in the franchise, serving as a direct sequel to The Curse of the Black Pearl, 2003. Its primary role is to broaden and deepen the story introduced in the first film while setting the stage for future installments. 1. Expansion of mythology and world building. The film introduces key supernatural elements that become central to the franchise's mythos, particularly the character of Davy Jones and his legendary Flying Dutchman, as well as the eponymous Dead Man's Chest containing Jones's heart. These elements elevate the narrative from simple pirate adventure into a complex, supernatural saga involving curses, debts, and eternal servitude. Or the mythological expansion provides a richer context for characters' motivations and conflicts, enabling the franchise to evolve into a sprawling fantasy epic. 2. Development of central characters and relationships. A Dead Man's Chest intensifies the emotional stakes between Jack Sparrow, Will Turner, and Elizabeth Swann, exploring their intertwined loyalties, betrayals, and desires. Jack's debt to Davy Jones introduces a personal, urgent conflict that shapes his arc and drives the plot. Will Turner's connection to his father, Bootstrap Bill, a member of Jones's cursed crew, adds familial depth and moral complexity. Elizabeth's shifting allegiances and assertiveness develop her into a more dynamic, proactive character. These developments deepen the franchise's emotional core, moving beyond archetypal swashbuckling tropes. 3. Setting up future installments. The film ends on a cliffhanger, with Jack seemingly claimed by the Kraken and Elizabeth and Will captured, effectively hooking audiences for the next chapter. The unresolved fate of Davy Jones and the nature of his curse provide ongoing narrative fuel for the franchise. The expanding scope and darkening tone signal the franchise's intent to explore increasingly epic and mythologically dense stories, as seen in later films. Underscore 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 underscore. Historical context and portrayal. While Dead Man's Chest is set loosely in a vaguely 18th century Caribbean environment, it is not intended as a historically accurate portrayal of piracy or colonial life. Instead, it adopts a fantastical, romanticized version of pirate lore. One loosely rooted in pirate mythology. The film draws inspiration from traditional pirate myths, such as cursed treasure, ghost ships, and sea monsters, rather than documented history. Figures like Davy Jones and the Kraken are legendary or folkloric, incorporated to enhance supernatural and mythic storytelling. The aesthetic and setting evoke the period through costumes, ships, and colonial architecture, but are stylized for cinematic spectacle rather than realism. 2. Historical inaccuracies and liberties. The depiction of naval powers, colonial societies, and piracy often prioritizes narrative drama over accuracy. Social structures, technology, and political dynamics are simplified or exaggerated to serve the plot and tone. The film incorporates anachronistic elements, such as fantastical creatures and magic, that underscore its fantasy orientation. 3. Immersive world despite historical fantasy. The production design, costumes, and locations create a convincing and immersive environment that captures the spirit of the pirate era without being bound to strict historical facts. The film's attention to detail in ship design, period costumes, and cultural references lends authenticity to the fantasy world, helping audiences suspend disbelief. Underscore 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 underscore. Conclusion: a vital narrative bridge and mythological deepening within a fantastical framework. In summary, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest serves as a crucial link in the franchise's overarching story, significantly enriching its mythology, developing key characters, and raising the stakes for the saga. Its narrative ambition and emotional complexity mark a maturation from the first film, steering the series toward a grand mythic epic. While it draws on historical pirate themes and aesthetics, it deliberately embraces fantasy and myth over accuracy, crafting an immersive but imaginative version of the Caribbean pirate world. This approach allows the film to prioritize storytelling, spectacle, and emotional depth, positioning it as a definitive and influential sequel within the franchise and per. Here's a detailed breakdown of the budget and box office performance of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and how its financial outcome correlates with its production scale, marketing strategies, and audience reception. Underscore 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 underscore. Budget versus production quality. The film had production budget of approximately $225 million, making it the most expensive film ever produced at the time of its 2006 release, Wikipedia. This large investment translated into visually stunning production values, extensive locations shooting across the Caribbean, intricately built ship sets like the Black Pearl, high-end CGI for characters like Davy Jones and the Kraken, and practical effects that grounded the spectacle in realism, Wikipedia. In short, the film's budget was well justified by its ambition, delivering top-tier craftsmanship in action, visual effects, and world building. Underscore 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 underscore. Box office success. A worldwide gross, approximately $1.066 billion, with $423 million from North America and $643 million from international markets, Wikipedia. It marked several box office milestones. First Disney film to surpass the $1 billion mark, Wikipedia. Became the fastest film to reach that threshold at the time, in just 63 days, Wikipedia. Held the title of highest grossing film of 2006 and ranked as the third highest grossing film of all time upon its release, Wikipedia. Simply put, the film was a massive financial triumph, exceeding expectations across global markets. Underscore 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 underscore. Mark